And we are live. Welcome everyone to Woke Wednesday Live with the Brandy Johnson. And I have my special guest today, Mrs. Sarina Murr. Say hello.
Hello.
So anybody jumping on, be sure to say hello. I am, of course, the Brandy Johnson. I am a connector, I am a motivator, I'm a mindset mentor, an author, an entrepreneur, and an all-around student of life. And again, I have with me Mrs. Sarina Murr. She is the founder of the Circle of Champions Worldwide Group, as well as the founder of the Trinity Community Mental Health Center. And she is a licensed mental health counselor with a specialized knowledge in trauma, which is an extremely good area of things to have a grasp on. Yeah. So today we are actually going to be talking about relationships and the growth mindset. So as we get started here, guys, be sure to drop your comments and your questions. We love to interact with you. Hello, everyone who is tuning in live. And a special thank you to anybody that jumps on a little bit later to watch the replay. So Sarai, is there anything that I left out? Would you like to further introduce yourself or just say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Well, first, let me thank you for having me on. We've been looking forward to this for about a month or more. And I'm really excited to be here and talk about such a awesome topic, because I know you and I both love the growth mindset. Yes. and having to do with mindset and growth and success and getting better and all of that. So this is super exciting.
Absolutely. So I would like to thank you for coming on. I know it's been hit and miss for a little while. You were sick, I was sick. Raymond was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went ahead and got Raymond on last month. And now I'm super glad to have you on this month. So guys, as always, be sure to drop your comments and your questions. We love to interact. And if you don't, well, we're still going to talk to y'all anyways, obviously.
I'm looking down because I'm sharing to the other groups, but yes.
Oh yeah. In fact, let me go ahead and share to my personal page. So if for some reason you're not a member of the For the Love of Queens group or the Circle of Champions group yet, I will be dropping the links to those as we speak. So you guys can go ahead and join one or both of the groups. Circle of Champions Worldwide is a group just for connectors. If you're somebody that's just looking for inspiration or need a place to start, Circle of Champions group is going to be a great place to do that. And we have this nifty little ticker at the bottom now. So catch that as it scrolls by. If you're not yet a member, become a member. So while we do that, I'm actually going to share on my personal page real quick. So Sarai, why don't you start us off with the importance of the growth mindset in a relationship?
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm not even sure if the viewers know what a growth mindset is versus what else. So the best comparison, and the person who really coined these terms is Carol Dweck. I believe she graduated from Stanford. She's a psychologist. So she made like the big differentiation between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So basically, the growth mindset is for the type of people we attract.
Yes.
I already know what it is. So the growth mindset is basically it's that you believe that we're a work in progress, that we are that we're always learning and growing, and that pretty much the sky is the limit. Whatever we think of is the limits are our thoughts. It isn't where we were born. It isn't what has happened to us. And that since I do have a background in trauma, and in reality, we all have a background in trauma because we all have some to trauma, whether you experienced it yourself or we all know someone who has been through trauma. But statistics show, regardless, that 7 out of 10 people report experiencing at least one trauma in their childhood. So what I want to tell you is that it doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what they've told you. It doesn't matter how you grew up. It doesn't matter if you have money or you don't have money. None of these things matter with a growth mindset, because the only limit is the limit you impose on yourself in your mind and through your thoughts and through what you speak. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I will say from personal experience, learning all these things as I continue to grow and seek my best self even further, I have no idea where my journey will stop. But I will say, in regards to the growth mindset and my relationship personally, um, when I began taking personal development, professional development, and what I wanted out of my relationship seriously, we started hitting those rough patches, but it was a good rough patch. So it was like we were challenging one another to continue the growth process. So when we did that, I realized that there were times I was worried about the strength of my relationship.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Yes, of course.
So when we started focusing on personal development and just reading, like I love to read and listen to books. He loves to just study random articles and stuff online, but it contributes to both of us in our personal growth. So we both continue to grow in our different ways and bring what we got to the table. And more often than not, we realize that each time we have open conversations and communicate clearly, we realize that we are actually accelerating at a faster rate than we realized towards the things that we want as a married couple. Now, somebody would have to pipe up here, like if you're in a relationship and both of you love personal development or you work on it indirectly or otherwise, like what has been your experience with the growth mindset, which is what you actually encounter when you focus on personal development and the like,
Right.
and the effect on your relationship. So I'd love to hear from you guys about that. But absolutely, all of that. All
So,
of it's very important.
so you're saying that like all of us, because I really like that you bring up that point, because in reality, we all in all of our relationships hit those rough patches. But if you're someone with a growth mindset, you're not threatened by the growth patches because you recognize the growth patches as opportunities to grow. So they don't pop up as threatening, and that's a big difference. The big difference is, since they're not threatening, then you could approach it in a way of being curious. You could be curious about it. You could be even excited about, this thing that we're going to go through together. And what you were saying is that you both are interested in growing, and you each have your own goals and ways that you want to develop. But you approach that as a non-threatening way. You could approach it as an exciting way, like you're excited to see him grow, he's excited to see you grow, as opposed to someone who might see it as threatening.
Absolutely. And the crazier thing too is when we first focused on our different versions of personal development, because like I said, our growth mindset was slowly achieved. But once we hit it, we realized that he has his goals, I have my goals, and then we have our goals.
Right.
And at first, like when you don't know how a relationship works, you see it feels like you're going in different directions at first.
Right.
But when you realize it's all right, especially since you've been talking about interdependency versus codependency and the like, when you realize it's all right to have your own thing and he has his own thing, but we still agree to come to the middle on most things, that brings a level of symbiosis that it's hard to achieve, but when you do, it's easy to keep the momentum going. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. And it's exciting. The way you just described it sounds very exciting, because you have his whole person, and what he brings to the table and what you bring to the table, and both of you, like what we were talking about on Monday with interdependence, is that then both of you create this amazing relationship where you're each adding to it. And that's pretty much having an abundant type. A growth mindset is living in abundance. So you don't see it as threatening. You see it like, wow, he brings all of this, I bring all of this. What can we create together? As opposed to many other relationships where if you grow, I'm feeling threatened, because where does that leave me? And if he's so having a growth mindset doesn't, or an abundant type of mindset, or it pretty much equals a mindset that you're not threatened, that you're excited. And that's a huge difference. Even the way your brain reacts to things, because our brain, if we're feeling threatened, our brain is going to react with fight or flight, fight, flight, or freeze. So, but if you're approaching things with an excited approach, and wanting to learn more and wanting to see, you know, and sort of like being his, I'm going to say cheerleader, and he's your cheerleader too, let's say, so to make it equal. But if you guys are that for each other, every day is fun and exciting. Every day is like, oh, wow, what are you doing today? And how's that going? And you actually become partners as opposed to working against the other person because you're threatened by whatever their growth is, or being afraid that, well, he's going in one direction and I'm going in another. But in reality, it's not like that. In reality, you're growing and he's growing, but together you're creating what you have together is growing as well in a positive way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And before we move on here, let's go ahead and drop everybody's comments. Somebody has said, hey, everyone. Guys, when you get on here, you should have something that pops up to notify you to allow your name and picture to be seen from Facebook, so we know exactly who is commenting. So Raymond has agreed to the terms, and so we can see his profile picture and see that it's him. So Raymond says, hello, Queens. Hey, Brother King Raymond. How are you? Hey, Kings and Queens.
Let me lower this. I can't see anything.
We got, hey, ladies. Hey, how are you?
Hi, everyone.
We have a comment. Thank you for your comment. All relationships are different depending on the individual. You need to sit and discuss everything. Only then you can grow together. Absolutely true. And I realized myself because, like Sarai said, at one point in time, it felt like we were growing in different directions and we were kind of at each other's throats, not literally, because we've never had a physical altercation in our entire relationship. And we've been together 13 years this year. So we've never had that type of altercation. Screaming matches from time to time, absolutely. Because, again, I used to be one of those people who used to hold stuff in for too long and then it just all come out at once.
Yeah.
I communicate a lot better now because I've learned how to, but it's been important to just understand, like, with any long-term relationships, it's never always going to be smooth sailing.
No.
So Raymond says, massive growth mindset right now, hungry. Absolutely.
That's for sure. But you brought up a good point, because when we in our relationships have conflict, and in reality, all relationships have the same type of conflicts. I'm pretty sure we exchange information, we're having the same type of fights, arguments, whatever word you want to use to explain it. The difference in a good relationship or a successful relationship and one that's failing is the way you fight and the way you deal with those situations and the way you deal with recovery of the fight. So, and this plays into having the growth mindset. So having with the growth mindset, you're not afraid to have those conversations because things don't become catastrophic. So if you have a fixed mindset, you approach things as, oh, it's a catastrophe and this will define everything. As opposed to, if you have a growth mindset, you're going to approach your relationship with, okay, this is just something else we need to get through, and we're constantly learning each other. Because the other thing is that even though you've been together for 13 years, I've been with my husband for, I don't know, maybe 15 years. I think it's about 15 years. I can't keep track, but we still don't know. You still don't really know the person, because that person is evolving and changing while you're evolving and changing, and understanding growth.
But that's the awesome thing, though, because if you're evolving and changing and he's evolving and changing, it's like you get to meet new versions of each other all the time. And that should actively grow. And so, like, your relationship never gets boring if you both are focusing on personal development and the growth mindset too, which is an added bonus to what we're already talking about.
Exactly. And the thing is that you shouldn't feel it's such, you see the way you described it, that's exactly how it needs to be approached, as opposed to being a threatening thing. And that's really like the main thing is to not feel, with a growth mindset, you don't really feel afraid, because you understand that everything's growing, everything's changing. Right now, everything is changing, everything's changing with us and with everyone around us. The time is changing. We're not stuck in this moment because this moment just changed to another moment. So and that happens with us too. So if we understand that and accept it, the thing is that you want to go against it. We want the person that we're with to be the person that we met 10 years ago. But you're not the person you were 10 years ago. So it's
absolutely not. And I'm so glad that I'm not, honestly.
Right.
So we have another comment. It says mindset and willpower plays an important part. And that is absolutely correct, because without that, we're actually talking about the growth mindset as it applies to relationships, but we're also getting ready to hit on the next thing, which is the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Because opposite to the growth mindset, of course, we have the fixed mindset. But the interesting thing is, you truly get to see how much a person cares for you when they currently possess a fixed mindset while you possess the growth mindset. The reason why I say this is because about August of last year, we had like a real come to Jesus moment in my household. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it, but basically, I left that house with nothing but my 38, my wallet, and the clothes on my back.
Oh, wow.
So it was at that point that he realized how very passionate I am about what I'm pursuing here. Not only in talking to you, but you know what I'm trying to do. And I'm just now getting very, very clear about exactly how I want to do it, why I want to do it, and how I'm going to go about doing it.
Right.
So when we did that, he began taking things more seriously, and I began taking things more seriously that's important to him. So we basically came to the middle, spoke and communicated properly after we both had time to calm down and decide, like, is this something that I want as far as our relationship? And of course it is, because like that dude, I have no idea what life would be like without him. But sometimes it takes those kinds of moments in order to, one, realize how much you truly care for each other, but two, again, come to the middle and compromise. If you have a fixed mindset and you refuse to think outside of that fixed mindset, you risk losing something that might be very, very important to you if the other person is not also on a fixed mindset.
And you just gave a beautiful example of a relationship that you're proving the growth mindset to be. If you were like if this was a research study, you just proved the power of having a growth mindset, because what seemed like something terrible, because you walked out with your 38 and the clothes on your back and all of that, right? So you just proved that by talking through things, you actually got to know each other better. You took your relationship to a higher level, and it took that let's call it adversity, or that whatever term you want to call it, it took that pain to get you there. And many times that's what growth requires, pain. And that piece of pain brought you guys together at a closer level. You guys know each other better. Now he knows how important growth is for you. And you said he's also growing in a different way. And maybe that also made him realize, or gave him an introduction to what growth is, even though we're all growing. You know,
yes, because I will say, over the years that we've been together, he has been one of my number one teachers. The way that I grew up very naive to the world and how it works. So he started teaching me what he knows from his perspective. And at first, his perspective seemed very harsh to me, because I didn't understand like who he had got his information from, and the fact that they didn't know how to soften it. So he didn't know how to soften it. So after I started experiencing the things myself that he had been trying to warn me about and put me on game about, I realized that that's just how he knew how to communicate it at that time.
Right.
So when you have somebody that's concerned about your safety and tells you, hey, pay attention when you're out there, take care when you're out there, those kinds of things, they're not harping on you. That's how they communicate. But that's the beauty of the growth mindset as well, because we can speak more openly and understand one another better now that we've had moments like that. And now, I don't know. It's like you still have those moments, but at the same time, it's like you know that you're in this together for a very, very long time.
But it's a work. So part of having a growth mindset is understanding that we're all a work in progress. But if we apply it to a relationship, relationships are also a work in progress. So what you're saying is you're not there yet, which is something that Carol Dweck talks about. Is it's not about you failed. It's not about the present moment. It's we're not there yet. So it's about
Yes.
so you're saying this is where we're at and this is where I want to be. And that space in between is your growth gap. So you plan out like, okay, if I'm right here, how do I get here? And how do I plan for my growth gap? So that's where your goals come in, and that's where you talk together, you figure out, okay, this is where we want to be. What can we start doing differently? And you test out things, but you also don't take things personal because you understand that the other person is doing their best and you're doing
Yes.
so
That is really important, because that's one of the reasons why we used to kind of bump heads, because I didn't realize he was trying.
right.
I was coming to conclusions based on what I had seen in other situations and relationships, and it wasn't aligning with mine. But I finally came to the conclusion that like our relationship is just different. The relationship that comes the closest that I've seen thus far to how we function in Johnson and Johnson household is that of my favorite coaches to date, and probably will be forever. My coaches, Doc and Winter Bobo, because they have a similar relationship to ours, but they're on a different level of things. Hence the reason I want them as my coaches, because I want to be on that level and beyond one day.
Okay,
So that is absolutely correct.
That's your growth gap. You just finished identifying your growth gap. I'm not sure if it's his growth gap too. So you guys have to talk about, is that where both of you want to be? And if it's where both of you want to be, then you plan out, if we're here, what do we need to do to get there? Like, and tweak.
Yes.
And also you got to remember, like, you have to remember, we learn our behaviors. We learn our styles of fighting. We learn our expectations. We learn all these things from our homes, from our original homes, from mom and dad. And I don't know too many homes out there that are perfect. And if they are, then that's a problem too, because if you're too perfect, then you grow up thinking that I shouldn't have any problems. And God forbid,
exactly,
the first argument happens and it's like, oh God, we're breaking up. And so nothing's really great. So you have to remember, okay, you're coming with momentum, and the momentum is, all that stuff that you learned in your childhood. I'm coming with mine, and here we are trying to get along, but we have our own crap to deal with. So if you recognize that, then you're always going to be patient. You're always going to be patient thinking that way, and you're always going to be encouraging, and you're always going to be able to recognize the good in the other person, as opposed to which is, and saying, that's it, this is how you are, you're never going to change. And then that's very discouraging. And we all say that, we all could get mad and say that. I think I've said that, but it's really counter to having a growth mindset and having a relationship that's growing.
Absolutely. And I want to go ahead and hit this question real quick. When was your turning point? Did you get help to realize that? Like I said, my turning point in regards to stuff that I will put up with or not was in August, because I reached a point in my life that like I understood that the impact that I will have on my brother kings and sister queens over the course of time is more important than making money, having a simple life, having a nice home, and just kind of doing our own thing. I would feel unfulfilled in that. And I realized that about myself. And I was willing to put my relationship on the line to make it known that I refuse not pursue this. And that's what it feels like when you discover your purpose, when you discover your calling. That's what happens. Because when I went through that moment, I'll tell you quite simply that I felt such a peace and clarity, even amidst all that chaos that was going on in the moment, that like, I knew it would be okay either way. Luckily, my husband and I are tighter than ever, but I was prepared in that moment if it didn't go that way. Does it make sense?
Yes, and that's okay. And that's okay for you to feel that way, because that makes you, what we were talking about Monday, that makes you independent. And that makes you deal with things in a clearer way, and in a way where you're not clinging on or being manipulative. Because when we feel threatened, we start manipulating things because we want to survive and we're trying to avoid the pain. So by being clear-minded like that, you're able to deal with things better, as opposed to, again, to manipulating using words to try to get your way, or try to, obviously you weren't manipulating if you walked out, or I don't know if that was, but you walked out, you're like, that's it, it's over. But Yeah, it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense.
So you got another comment, work in progress. Yes, you meet each other where they are and plan growth. I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you could
and
have,
Raymond says, yes, it's a must.
I mean, as long as we're not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about a relationship where you're having physical abuse or sexual abuse or something along those lines. That's a whole other type of relationship where it's very difficult. The growth part there has to be with you and you growing yourself out of there, because it's very difficult for that to change. Even though I've seen that change, that other person, as tough as they may look, they're actually going through a lot of pain. But definitely that it is about planning. It's about checking in, and that's a big deal because when you're with someone for so long, you forget to check in. You just assume that you know where they're at, and you assume that you know what they're thinking and what they like and don't like, and you forget that we're all changing and we're all wanting something different. I am very different from what I was 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I love this the growth mindset and the growth way of thinking, the abundance way of thinking, because it completely changed my life. In my 20s, I was a very different person. Even though I had my master's degree, I was studying, but I was a very, very different person, and I was really paralyzed by fear. And pretty much meeting Tony Robbins and doing his whole program and it wasn't an overnight thing, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult to change, and it's very difficult to absorb these things and to change your mind about things that you thought were always true. And if you're coming from
oh my gosh, yes.
When you're coming from a place of fear, those are absolutes in your mind.
Yes. And that is like one of the biggest things that I had to fight through when I realized, because when you're growing up and you see your parents, you love your parents, you look up to your parents, and then you realize when you're older, like in my age group, like I love my parents, I adore my parents, but my parents aren't living how I hope to live at that age, which means I need to do something different. And I felt guilty for a long time, not being like grateful for having parents to show me that they can live and not struggle too badly and stuff like that. Because how when you come from a certain background, how seeking money on a high level seems to be frowned upon. But I myself see money as a tool that I can use to help others.
Right.
And it took me a long time to realize the difference between loving what I can do with money versus loving money itself. I've never loved money itself. But when you're not taught the difference between the two, you put them together and you have this inner battle going on. And I believe it was like Lou Tice that said, you can't hold on to two conflicting thoughts at once. So when you're constantly in battle like that, you're unfocused.
Yeah.
And it's that focus that you need in order to hit the growth mindset.
And you're actually talking about thoughts that you're aware of, but the type of thoughts that are attached to what our parents taught us are no longer thoughts. Those become values. And values, we're not even aware of that in a way, because it's what drives all of our behaviors. And it's not a conscious thing. So like, for example, what you just said, you pretty much described feeling guilty for wanting to make money or having a certain amount of money. And many of us are taught that. And that, even if say you didn't consciously know about it, then it will be a value where if you made too much money, you'd feel so guilty about it that you would need to get rid of it. And you wouldn't even know why. And then 10 years go by and you're not making the kind of money that other people are making, but you don't realize that it's because that value that was instilled in you, that, and honestly, the values that we get from our parents aren't even at this level. They're in our body, they're in our core, and you gotta dig in there like a basket of dirty clothes. You gotta pull out all the dirty clothes before you find the real thing that's down there, and that's very difficult.
Most definitely, but it's definitely worth the effort, though. So Raymond says, when I found my purpose, it cost me all my broken relationships. It was amazing when I got a dream. It showed me how many people really didn't thank God for showing me unshakable love.
And that's such a good point, because the risk that we take And the reason, for example, the reason that you were able to recognize that thought that you had about money is because you're on a path of self-growth and development. If you're not on a path of self-growth and development, a lot of things will go by and you won't even notice them because they're just what they are. And the point that Raymond made right now is such a great point, because the risk of getting better, the risk of improving yourself and living the life that you were meant to live, or at least getting close to it, there is a risk, which is losing a lot of people. That's part of growing. It's like, imagine that a child that grows, you can't wear the same clothes you wore at 10 when you're 18.
Yes.
And you're gonna shed people who are not, and I don't want to say keeping up with you, because it's not necessarily that you're better, but they're just not on the same path. So if people are not on the same path, they're not going to understand you. They're not going to click with you, and you're going to grow out of them. It's like growing out of clothes. It's like growing out of anything. But it's really worth it. It's really worth it when you meet yourself.
And that's something that I had to break myself from feeling guilty about too. Because honestly, I actually have people say, "You think you're better than me?" I said, "No, I'm not better than you. I'm better than the things that you allow yourself to do."
That's awesome. That was a great statement.
So it's not that I don't have mad love for people that I've grown up with, or people that just aren't on the same type of journey as I am. I absolutely do. But I have people like, I'm absolutely all right if you don't want to take part of a journey like mine. That's perfectly fine. What I cut and draw the line at is what I'm doing, I believe, is very important to several people down the road that I haven't even met yet, that I don't even know is probably watching, either right now or later on, whatever it might be. When I started taking that into consideration, understanding how widespread our impact can have no idea that somebody's watching, I stopped worrying so much about the people that are like, "You've changed, you don't hang out anymore, you think you're better than us, you're just after the money." That's not what it's about whatsoever. I have mad love for my Black sister queens and my Black brother kings. I've gone over this before. And it's not because I don't love everyone else, but it's because everyone else is allowed to love on each other and stay in their own small communities, yet we're frowned upon when we try and do the same thing. And this has taken a little bit of a turn, but it's important because it's this mindset that has allowed me to come back and know and understand that it's all right to have that love and to want to help repair some of the things that are clearly broken within our community. And it's going to take shutting down the noise of those people that don't understand and don't want to understand because they've got their blinders on, which is fine. But if you can't encourage the process, be a part of the process, or join me in your own version of your process, you have no place in this inner circle or even in the outer circle until I get to a certain point that I'm like, okay, I have more free time. I feel like I've had enough of an impact. Let's see where so and so and who's is at. Because those same people that are tell you that you're too good for them, or you're just after the money, or you're not the same person you were anymore. Those same people will be right where they're at 5 years later. When you're up here 5 years from now and you look back, they're going to be in the same spot. But if you break down and listen to what they're saying and listen to them try and talk you out of certain things, I feel like the regret would far outweigh the "I wish they could have come, but maybe they'll be ready later" mentality.
Of course, definitely. But you're describing a path of a purpose-driven life, and right now you have a purpose-driven life, and the only way to have a purpose-driven life is by having a growth mindset as well. And you're trying to grow into something, you're trying to impact lives, and that's so important that you were even willing to risk your relationship and walk out. And that's because what your purpose is more important. And I truly believe in that. Your purpose and your spirit and the gift that has been given to you is more important than anything else, because it almost equals survival to me. It almost equals like, then what are we alive for? What are we here for if it isn't for, for what we were meant to do on earth? What's your real purpose here? And that's what you're describing. And you know, people that don't understand, we don't have to have hard feelings for them, but we don't have to deal with it. We know what we're doing, and maybe through your work and through the path that you're taking, you're leading by example. And it's hard to be a leader. It's hard to be a leader, we don't need validation to be leaders. And I think Raven was talking about that. We don't need permission. We don't need validation. You just do you, because that's what's important, and you need that for your survival, because then how are you going to feel? I mean, the worst thing in life is to feel that regret that 10 years went by and I'm still at the same level, or I didn't accomplish my goals. And some people don't have that big goals like that, so they're not going to understand your big goals.
Absolutely. And I want to hit this comment real quick. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people got so much negativity, they will try to pull you down. And that's the absolute truth. And some of the people closest to me over time have proven to be the ones that try to pull you back or sneakily kind of take you off task, so to speak.
They try to derail you. And why do you think that is?
Honestly, it's a they don't want to get left behind, but they also don't want to put in the work to come with you.
Right. So you're pretty much, you're saying fear. It's scary to be left behind.
I love this. Pray for me, support me, join me, or move. Yes.
Wait, who said that? Carrie.
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. And we need to do that because this is going to sound so selfish, but we are more important. You know, you have, if you don't make yourself more important, nobody's going to make you more important. If you don't make your purpose important, then what you were meant to do is never going to come to life. So it's your responsibility to be aligned with yourself and live a life that's aligned with you. And it's your responsibility to know yourself and know what you're meant to do. And I don't think there's anyone that should really come between you and your life's purpose, because that is our ultimate responsibility, is to figure that out and get it done. And
yes, absolutely.
That's not speaking. That's just the way I really believe. I really believe that's our purpose in life, is to be aligned with what we're meant to be doing. And if you don't know what you're meant to be doing, then you need to get to it and start figuring it out. And follow the clues. The clues are, what comes easy to you? What would you be doing all day long if you're not getting paid? And if you marry that with passion, I mean, that's not always related to your passion, but if you're lucky enough that what you're great at is also your passion, and you can marry those two, then that's it. You won the lottery, and that's where you
story. And I gotta be honest, I'm not there yet. I have something that I do. I have things that I do to generate my income, and then I'm working on this because my passion for this, I know that there's money in it, but it's not my driving factor, if that makes sense. So anything can be monetized. We all know this. But my primary focus is to get very, very clear on exactly how I want to do what I want to do, what I feel pulled to do, because I see a need. We have, and this is what took me so long to just come out and say it, like, I want to focus on my Black brothers and sisters because nobody else does. And the people that do, they seem too abrasive to others that don't understand that they don't hate anybody, but they're trying to do for self, so to speak.
And that's okay. And even you're saying it took you a long time to give yourself the permission to verbalize that.
But I was discouraged by some people from focusing on that. And it was people that were supposedly my mentors, my influences, that were trying to talk me out of it because they were trying to control my talent, my power, so to speak. I was talking to King Hollis one day, and I realized in that conversation, and like, yo, I've been waiting for somebody to give me permission to be me. And when I realized that, it was in that moment that I gave myself permission to do exactly what I know I'm called to do. Because I'm the only one that can. Nobody can tell me how to be me. The only thing that they can do is show me where to look. So when I realized that, it's like something clicked. Sis, when I tell you over the course of the last year and a half, I've probably had no less than 10 to 12 breakthroughs. I'm serious about that. Like, I'm not even the same person that I was 90 days ago.
Right.
And at one point in time, somebody observing what's going on with somebody like me, even somebody like you, because you're not even the same person that I met a couple of months ago.
Right.
So the crazy thing is, somebody would say, well, you can't make up your mind. No. The scary thing is, we are getting clearer and clearer about what we want, hence the connections we keep making.
Because you're growing, and because you're aligned, because the more aligned you become with yourself, and whatever that is, your higher wisdom, with your spirit, with whatever word the universe, whatever word you want to choose, but the more aligned and you become, and if, let's say, we don't use a spiritual thing, let's just call it that, the more authentically you live your life according to your values and what you find important, the more success you're going to find, and the more what you're describing is going to happen, where things are going to start coming at you so quickly, because you're becoming a magnet for it, because you're actually living a life that's aligned with your true self, which is the ultimately, that's our, like I said, that's our responsibility of what we're supposed to be doing. And you also keep mentioning a lot about, the issue with the money, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to flip it on you. I also feel it's our responsibility to be rich. And I'm talking about rich financially, because the more money we have, especially people like us and what we're trying to do, that's going to be a means to an end. And
absolutely,
that's how we're going to impact more lives, and we're going to have more to do more with. So that's, if you feel guilty about having money and it seems selfish, let's call it, then let's flip that and say, I need money to help. If I need $50 per every person, and I'm trying to reach 1 million. So how much do you need? 50 times 1 million. So that, I think that's 500 million. I'm not sure, but I could be
a whole lot of money.
So
Carrie says, wow, you just put into words what I have been thinking.
Yeah, Carrie and I are always on the same wavelength. We're always
yes.
But that's we need to become rich. We need to be selfish. We need to push people aside that are trying to push us off our track. I know what I need to be too. It took me a long time to give myself permission, and probably that's a struggle for everybody, because the majority of us don't grow up in a way where we're allowed to give ourselves permission, or we're allowed to speak our mind, or whatever else. And that's one of those things that I was mentioning earlier, that we're not even aware of it. It's just at our core that we are fragile in that way, or we're inhibited in that way. But it's like peeling an onion. We're an onion, and we got to peel it off until we become, what we're meant to become.
Most definitely. And Carrie also says growth is about different levels of clarity. And so when we're in the growth mindset, we already went over this, but when you're in the growth mindset, you hit a better ability to see opportunities for growth and success. Hence the connections that we're making, hence the rapid shedding of multiple skins, so to speak. I swear, to the outsider looking in that doesn't understand this process, you look like a crazy person when you not only go through all these changes, but full on embrace it all.
Yes.
The good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, because it's all to the good.
You know how I imagine it? I imagine those games where what is it? Oh God, the games where, I don't know the name of the games, but where they have a ball and it starts blowing up like that. If my husband's watching this, he's probably crying. You know what? Forget it. I don't know if you guys know what it is. You could put it on there. But oh God. But they blow up the ball and then they throw it at each other with all that power. I feel like that's what's happening to all of us. We're just all magnetizing and attracting each other. And we're blowing up like that because we're and I don't want to say pumping each other up. It's not so much pumping each other up. It's we're all drawing out more of our truth.
Yeah, and not only that, but we're feeding on each other's positive vibes. And that's what I absolutely love about this is you can't help but be positively impacted when you intentionally seek the type of people that we've been able to connect with each other. Like there are other people on my network that like you guys are going to get to meet over time and you're going to be like, yes, please. Because I don't know, it's baffling, yet it's so awesome at the same time. It's like you wish you would know that this level of attraction and manifestation and things like that was possible sooner. But at the same time, you're glad you didn't, because if you don't know how to control that power properly, it can get you in a lot of trouble too.
and also you need to know what you need to know to get to that, to be able to maintain that level. So you could get to a level, but if you're not prepared for that level, you're gonna screw it up, you're gonna lose it. So
Yes.
as bad as we want another level, we may not be ready for that level, and we have to do well with what's right in front of us. So when we're doing well with what's in front of us, then we go to the next level because we're ready, we're prepared, and we could deal with the next level. We could be successful with the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And Raymond says, I'm giving myself permission. The biggest struggle of the poverty mindset is knowing we deserve more and are capable once we make a decision to separate out our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely. And that's something else too, Raymond and everyone. When probably about 60 to 90 days ago, I came to the realization, I should say, that though my father taught me how to save, he taught me how credit works to an extent, everything he taught me in regards to finances, he taught me from the scarcity mindset. And I realized that mindset is not conducive with the level of wealth that I want to be able to wield at some point in time. And that's when I got really serious about my coaching. But it took me, I don't know why it took me so long to see it. Well, I do, because, and this is an excuse, I promise it's not. But I feel, as a Black woman in this illustrious country that we live in, absolutely love this country, but we got some problems. We often feel as if we are fighting on multiple fronts over multiple things, and it's hard to pinpoint the areas that you need to correct in order to go in the direction that you want to go in. So I believe I just had enough time from focusing on morning routine and meditating and making sure I'm feeding my mind positive stuff. Yeah. That finally gave me the chance to kind of really reflect and focus on the things that I need to shift in order to get to where I want to go. And that was one of the things that just came to the forefront suddenly. Like, I don't know what I need to know in order to be able to set a solid foundation to get here. So it's important for us to take that time and realize that. And that's what Raymond was basically saying here. He had to give himself permission to get out of the poverty mindset. And I had to do the same thing. So Raymond, I absolutely understand what you mean about that. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, absolutely. And the poverty mindset is a fear-based mindset. It's the scarcity. It's everything that you were saying, the scarcity mindset, the fear-based mindset. And that's also a big difference between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. With the growth mindset, you're not fearful of making mistakes. You're not fearful of failures because they're not really failures, they're growth opportunities, which is the very big difference. With a fixed mindset, a failure means, oh, I shouldn't have gone that way and let me stop.
Yes.
And that's a big difference.
And hello there, #live. That is from our sister Queen Antoinette Marie Williams. Thank you for joining us, sis. How are you this evening? Hey, Carlette, I see you've jumped on. Hello, sis. How are you? And Raymond says, great explanation, Queen Brandy. You're very welcome. Sometimes I have a hard time putting things into words, but when I do, you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
You were super good.
So, guys, we pretty much touched on everything that we meant to hit this evening. So, be sure that, like, if you're watching, drop questions, drop comments, say hello. And if you are new to either one of our broadcasts, Circle of Champions or Circle of Champions Worldwide, excuse me, or For the Love of Queens, be sure to reach out. If you would like to connect with me, go ahead and drop a 1J in the comments. And if you would like to connect with Sarai Namur, go ahead and drop a 2N in the comments. And if you've not yet joined one of the groups or both of the groups, here is the link to Circle of Champions Worldwide. It is ccworldwide365.com. That takes you directly to the Circle of Champions Worldwide group where you can go ahead and join. And here is the website for, well, I should say the web address for the Love of Queens group on Facebook. And again, just go ahead and go to www.flq365.com. Takes you directly to the For the Love of Queens group, and just go ahead and join.
And thank you for making those links. You're the queen of all this stuff. You're good.
Hey, I'm just learning as I go. Something that's always grabbed my attention is I love working on electronics, and I love figuring out new ways to I don't know, set things up. Yes, ma'am, Carrie. I already approved your joining to the For the Love of Queens. I think you're already a member. Yes, I will definitely be reaching out.
You guys have any questions out there? Bye.